No matter where you're at, nowhere is safe in Gaza because the Israeli government is going to eventually bomb that location. Here, the Israeli government has bombed a school.
So then it is 1500 GMT, that is just past 5 p.m. in Gaza, where Israel's bombardment of the Strip is unrelenting. We've just received reports that Israel struck the Assad al Saftawi school about an hour ago. It's in the Al Daraj neighborhood of Gaza City, where hundreds of people have been sheltering. Moments after the attack, many had to flee, carrying just whatever they could. Israel's military is expanding its operations by launching more attacks in the central and southern areas. In the south, hospitals are becoming overwhelmed. Doctors describe the situation as catastrophic. The wounded are being treated on floors and in corridors in overcrowded facilities with limited supplies. Well, Israel's unrelenting airstrikes in the south have reduced entire neighborhoods to rubble. More than half of the homes in Gaza have been destroyed or damaged by Israeli attacks since October the 7th. Well, let's get.
And is the Israeli government going to do anything to help these innocent people rebuild their homes after the Israeli government blown them up? No.
The picture from Khan Yunis now. Tarek Abu Azoum is standing by for us there in southern Gaza. So, Tarek, Israel is targeting the central and southern parts of Gaza, but the attack on that school in Gaza City shows that the north is still in focus too.
Yes, absolutely. Attacks against hospitals and even schools in the north of the Gaza City had renewed again by the occupation forces. This time, a school in the northern areas had been attacked, and these areas considered to be an operation zone for the Israeli occupation forces that had regular battles with Hamas fighters in that area. Meanwhile, people had used to take these areas as shelter for them, where they tend to be protected from the Israeli artillery bombing and the aerial bombardment that had been carried out by the occupation forces since the early beginning of this round of fighting. The majority of residents from the eastern areas of the north of the Gaza Strip, whose houses are adjacent to the borders, fled earlier to the schools that are affiliated to the United Nations and the schools that also run by the government inside the Gaza Strip, in order to be away from the Israeli relentless bombardment and to receive also humanitarian aid that are distributed by the United Nations. But the attacks on those areas continue in order to force people to flee to the south of Gaza, and at the same time to give a clear mobility for the maneuvering troops on the ground to act in these areas. The fact on the ground in the north that some people refuse to evacuate simply because they don't have any safe corridor or passage out to the south, to the southern areas, and they are still now stay and remain in these shelters. They were running low in terms of food, water, especially with the limited number of humanitarian trucks that were allowed to enter the north of the Gaza.
Now, as I said, you're in Khan Yunis in the south. It is Gaza's second largest city and home to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians you've been describing who've had to flee and been forced from their homes. Tell us what the latest situation there is.
Israel has killed more than 15,899 Palestinians since the start of the war in Gaza in October. That's them have been kids and women. Innocent people being killed by the government. 15,899 innocent people.
No.
Yes, the situation on the south is very complicated and is getting much more exacerbation, especially with the Israeli orders that had been delivered to the residents in the eastern areas of Khan Yunis to flee to Rafah in order to be away from the Israeli bombardment. But the fact is that the attacks on the south did not stop as Israel bombarded Rafah district for multiple times during the last couple of days after the collapse of the truce and the possibility for reaching further extension of the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. And a number of people had practically started to flee and to evacuate to Rafah district. They are now taking shelter on public areas, and we just take a close look over the people there. We found them like they are setting up tented camps. They are taking shelter on the street where there is no